Welcome back to the Wild Rose podcast. I'm Whitney Rose.
I'm Connie Daniels. Today, we have a very, very special guest. She is one of our really, really close friends. Her name is Natalie. She just barely went through a pretty big change in her life and did some kind of bizarre, off-the-wall, out-of-pocket type things. And she's here to share her story and kind of the reasons why she decided to do some very, I don't know, what would you call it?
I know, deep self-care work, I guess.
Deep self-care work, for sure.
Yeah, and kind of out of the norm. I think it's something that a lot of us fantasize about and don't actually do because it's, one, out of the norm, two, probably a little scary, and three, hard. But you are so inspiring, and Connie and I, even when you're not around, we just talk about like how brave you are and how what you're doing is going to inspire so many people. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just going to move this a little closer to you, though.
Yeah.
There we go. So Natalie, sorry,
no,
nickname.
Calls me Nat.
I know,
You're fine.
I always call you Nat. First, want to just like give a little background and tell
us who you
are, where you came from.
Goodness.
Just a snippet of your life story.
Well, Quickie, I'm 51, middle-aged mama right here. I moved to Utah in 1996 to marry my Mormon boy. And what a shock that was, because I came from just outside of London. He was in New York City. And we came to this little rural town in Utah. And we're like, oh, my gosh, where are we right now? Anyway, fast forward, we have 4 kids. They're all adults, grown. I have a little grandson.
Who's so cute, by the way.
He's pretty great. And his dad gave me a bit of trouble, so I was kind of hoping for a payback kid for him, but he's not this one. He's perfect. But yeah, so I've kind of gone through my life as a stay-at-home mom, and then I went back to school because when I moved, my credentials wouldn't transfer. So I went from being completely independent, self-sufficient to this kept mama. And as much as some people love that life, I did not at all love that life. And now that my kids are grown and I didn't have any excuse to not move on to my next chapter, lots of things kind of kept holding me in my space. Over the last several years, there's been some, everybody's gone through some stuff in the last few, but we'd had some pretty decent family traumas. And so I definitely had doubled down on taking care of my family and making sure everybody was alive and breathing. As dramatic as that sounds, sometimes it really is that bad. And so then once everyone's stable and doing well, thank goodness for therapy and such, but you have no choice but to work on yourself. And at that point, it's a little bit scary to kind of pull the plug on all the things that you've stuffed and suppressed over the last several years. And so I knew I was down. I was getting more and more depressed. But unfortunately, in that state, you don't have the kind of the power to move out of it. The minute you crawl out a little bit, a tiny thing can just push you back. So I think what's the point was my mantra for a good couple of years. And what I've, learned more recently is that whatever you think manifests, whether it's good or bad. So I was definitely manifesting my, what's the point life that I was living. And I kept thinking, I need to do something. But with an ADHD brain and a house full of people who are used to being taken care of, I was busy just doing everything else. I was avoiding it. I was very much, it was just easy to be distracted by manual and menial tasks that I did over and over and over. And I'd gotten to where I started my therapy. I was starting to kind of research, what do I need? And when you look forward at what do I want my future to look like, it's really hard to not sit and go, gosh, why am I in Utah? Why did I have 4 kids? What, and some of the choices that you've made, they're now going to limit the choices you can make. Because obviously I can't undo those choices, but they were limiting the future that I thought I wanted. And so I couldn't seem to get healed where I got hurt, if that makes sense. It was too easy to do nothing. And I am blessed to have a spouse who takes care of me in every sense of the way, like emotionally and physically. And I've been married 27 years, and he is just fabulous. But the two of us are codependent. and we solve each other's problems before we know we have them. And so I needed to get away from him so that I could prove to myself that I could do the things that I needed to do.
Which I'm sure that was not easy at all for him.
Yeah. But tell us what you did, because I don't think we've really gotten to that point yet, what you decided to do.
So I moved out. I moved out of the house. And let me just tell you, this happened, it was New Year's Eve. I love New Year's. It's probably my favorite holiday ever. And we had been invited to a party that was going to kick off. We knew it was going to be awesome. And I just couldn't care less. Didn't want to go. And I kind of felt that way about most things last year. But it got to the point where I just thought, you know what? Have a drink, get some courage in you, get your butt ready and get out the door, or you're going to be more depressed tomorrow that you didn't go. So I went. I was in my own little bubble with my husband. We just kind of stayed. We played for a while, and then we got home. And I went to post my obligatory, Instagram picture. And then I realized how few I had posted since the previous New Year's. And the caption on last year's could have read exactly the same this year. And I thought, wow, I have been in this hole too long and I'm done. And that was it. And I opened my phone.
Was that the moment?
Yeah, I opened my phone. So it's the 1st of February. I got on the Airbnb app, looked for somewhere available immediately for a month. I found a place. I went there the next day, realized that wasn't going to work for me. So I immediately reopened the app, picked a different place, and then I got home. So it was like the 2nd of January, I guess. I got home. My older kids happened to be standing at my kitchen counter, which they rarely are. And so I said, oh, guys, guess what Mum's doing? And I told them, and my husband's like wide-eyed and like, okay, like didn't know this was happening right now. And it was like, well, when are you moving? And I was like, today. And I basically, he just left to go to the gym, and I hurried and ran around my house like I was escaping, got every suitcase I could find, packed everything that was mine, and threw it in the car and pulled out. And that was it.
He didn't say anything at the time. He was just like in shock, probably. You're actually doing
had you
this?
discussed it prior?
We had discussed that I needed space and I needed to do something, and I couldn't get it together without him. And I had read about people who lived separately but together, but usually it was because they were on the verge of divorce, or else they had gotten together later in life and they had 2 separate families, so it was easier to live separate. And I honestly didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just knew I had to do something, and I couldn't wait another minute. And I had said to him prior that I felt like if I was going to go away for a month to like a wellness retreat or something like that, just to sort my mental state out. And he was kind of like, how is going to a spa going to fix you? And I said, no, I'm not actually going to a retreat. I just want to create one. And I said, if I don't do this, I'm going to spend a month in a mental hospital instead. That's kind of where I was getting to. I was like, I don't want to get to that point where I'm just broken, but I was so close. So in that moment, I just thought, this is my last hurrah, I guess. I'm gonna do my best. And I had no idea how it would work out. But my goal leaving the house was I'm gonna get some mental space where I don't have to worry about anybody else. I'll have no excuses but to do this. And then I'm gonna come home at some point, hopefully, maybe with a plan of what my future's gonna look like. And that was it. And I drove away, and it was shockingly freeing, actually.
I was going to ask you, you're in your car driving away from your house. What were you feeling?
Yeah, shockingly free. Like I could have just drove and drove and drove forever and never looked back. That's how desperately I needed this. And I didn't know it was that desperate until I walked away. And it's funny, like this was a Wednesday. I got my stuff unpacked and I sat there in my little Airbnb, which was this little basement apartment. It had 3 tiny windows that it probably is not legal as an exit. That's why it was pretty open plan. But I thought, this is perfect. There is no distraction here. There's nothing for me to clean. There's no one that needs anything. And, I had thought about going to England for a month. I'd thought about going somewhere. I thought as long as there are other human beings that I know, I will default to making sure they're okay and what do they need and showing up however I felt I needed to. And in this space, I could just do me, whatever that meant. And it was pretty surprising how quickly I got real comfortable. And I think about the 3rd day, I thought, yeah, I don't think I'm ever going home. And I think any mom could relate to that. If you could get your own little space with no other human making a mess. The only things in the fridge were the things I chose and was going to eat. And they were still going to be there when I came home. And it was just like, it was like a little fantasy.
And the house stayed the same while you were gone.
Exactly the same. Yeah. It was really cool.
Because how old were you when you had your first baby?
I was 19.
So you never really had time in your life to just be on your own.
Never once. Never been alone. I have once in my life been in a hotel room by myself. Wow. One night. That was it. And I remember thinking how weird it was, and I couldn't decide which bed to sleep on because there were two. But I have always had my kids since like super young. And then I moved here married with 2 kids, and it was just like I've never been alone. And I didn't know what that looked like, but I sure knew I wanted it. So didn't know how to do that without blowing up my family. And in the end, I just took a chance and hoped for the best. Yeah. And I didn't know how the outcome would be. I didn't know if I was losing my marriage and everything out of it. But I was that desperate that I was going to take a chance on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to lie. When I first heard that you moved out, I thought, oh no, are they getting divorced? That's my first thought. Because when you hear something like that, it's like, oh, they're separating because it's something between them, but like you did this solely for your own self.
Yeah, I had to. It was funny when I told my youngest 2 kids, and bear in mind they're 21 and 24, so they're not kids, but I told them what I was doing, and there's no indication in my house that me and my husband have any issue. We don't argue and fight, but that was their first thought. Whoa, are my parents getting a divorce? And that was some of the things where people were reaching out to me, and it was like, no, I'm not going out being single. I'm being on my own to do me. And within a week or so, after they came and visited me and saw what I was up to, they were like super stoked and proud of me, just like, well done, Mom. That was hard, and we respect what you're doing. And they're big fans of like taking care of yourself now because of some of the mental things that they've had to go through. So that was a good thing for them.
Wow.
So what were some of the things that you were doing? Like when you were alone in this space, working on yourself, what are some things that you put into practice, things that you learned? I know that we've talked a lot about like your rituals and the things that you do now. So what were you doing in your time alone?
Well, it's funny. At first, it's not like rocket science, and it's nothing new that you haven't heard 1,000 times. But for some reason, when you're depressed, you just can't be bothered, and you just don't care to even do the small things. But when you're on your own, there's nobody there that's going to say, come on, get out of bed, come on, do the thing. It's like, it's just all you. So I had kind of a list. I had books with me. I had my notebooks. I had podcasts I was listening to. And I was just kind of feeding my mind with just random ideas, basically. And then I thought, okay, so gratitude always comes up. I got to start with a gratitude list every day. The first thing, let me just back up. The first thing I had to do was detox from phone use, because the first thing I do when I wake up was grab my phone. And you immediately either have email, text messages, or Instagram, whatever it is you're scrolling. So you're reacting to whatever you see, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And that can take you down 2 hours later, you're still on your phone, right? So that was the first thing, is I had to keep my phone in a different room, and I had all my little notebooks next to me, and I was not allowed to touch my phone for 45 minutes.
So did you get like an alarm clock, like an old-fashioned alarm clock? How did you wake
I just,
because most people use their phone as their
no, I didn't.
alarm.
I was on my own. I didn't have to wake up. So I just was like, well, you'll wake up when you wake up.
Well, that's nice.
That's how long you need, right? Is to I know, that's crazy, right? But it's funny, you wake up at a decent time, believe it or not. You don't realize when you're like trying to do something positive, you actually do wake up. Whereas when you're miserable, you stay asleep as long as you can. So I did notice that difference right away. But it only took me about 3 days to get over the phone. And then I didn't even want to look at the phone. The phone was just going to be a time suck. And I felt this urgency to like do what I got to do, because I had put a deadline on it, not a total deadline, but for the 30 days that I booked the Airbnb, then it was my husband's birthday. So I was like, well, I got to go home for his birthday, don't I? I mean, that would be really rude to not do that. So that was the plan. But then I was like, but then the next 30 days, I'm going to assess how my life is at home, if I can implement the things that I've like put into place. And if not, at any point, I'm moving out again. Like that was clear to him from me. So that was it.
I have a question about that. Did you, these rules that you set for yourself, these things that you were doing, did you just come up with this based on what you were learning, or did you work with someone like a coach or?
Nope, I totally came up with myself. But I realized as I was coming up with the things and trying them and putting I had these little checklists in the morning. So I did my gratitude, I did some meditation, I made sure I made breakfast and had to take my supplements, just little things that I knew were healthy. And then I had my plan for the day, what I was going to do that day. And I came up with it, but then I'd be going on my walk in the neighborhood and I'd listen to something where somebody else, like maybe Mel Robbins or someone, would be saying, oh, you need to do these things. And I thought, oh, that's exactly what I've been doing. Well, why wasn't I just doing them before? But I realized I had to come up with my own plan because I felt like I have spent my whole life following someone else's plan for me, whether that's, as a child. And then as an adult, so I was a mom very young. I was LDS. So you have that where you're absolutely told what you need to do and how you need to feel about it. So when you break away from that, you realize I don't know what my plan is or what I want to do. So it was important that I came up with my own plan, even though it's not rocket science. It was just, I had to feel like I owned it and it worked for me. And I also tweak it and change it regularly because it started to get a little too complicated. And so then I was like, all right, peel it back, just keep
when
yourself
things get
positive.
Yeah, too complicated, then you just stop doing it. Or at least that's how I am. I'm like, oh, okay, this is too much. And then so make it simple so you're still progressing, you're still moving forward with it. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was. I was just sort of feeling it as I go along. And what I found was that I was able to get my mindset positive. So when I was having crappy thoughts, or it really happened mostly if I snuck home or went to see my man, we'd get into it for a minute and I'd leave like really down and like, frustrated. And then within minutes of being home and just doing some of my little rituals, I could get myself positive again. So that was scary because I thought, great, here's my issue, right? There's my issue right there. But it wasn't so much that he was my issue, but he was scared too.
Yeah.
What's happening here? My wife, my love, she's not around. What the heck's happening? Is she leaving me? So it brought up all of his insecurities and that sort of stuff. But he was respectful. I asked him, I said, please, 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 you have to leave me alone. I can't have you text me if it's an emergency. And if you want to send me, a love letter and I miss you and all that, please email it and I will get to it like on my schedule so it's not interrupting me. And at first, It was funny. The first few days, he didn't communicate with me. And I was sulking, like, doesn't he even miss me? Like they can't win, can they? It's like, doesn't he notice I'm not even there? But he was being respectful. And then
Which is amazing because I don't know that I would get that from my own husband if I chose to do something like this.
He said it was the hardest thing. It was the hardest thing. And he did text me on the Friday because we always go on a date night. And he said, well, it's my turn for date night. Did you want to go on a date? And I thought, sure, that's cute. And he said, well, send me your address and I'll pick you up. And I thought that was hilarious. He still didn't know where I was.
Oh my God.
And he shows up to my little basement and it's like I'm getting picked up for a date. Like that was pretty funny because, we'd never had that experience ever.
Right.
We didn't date. We were across the country.
Yeah. Because you had children before him.
I had, my kids were 3 and 4 when we met. And so, I just showed up here with 2 suitcases and 2 kids. So we had never been alone.
Just the two of you dating with no kids.
And we didn't have family to drop our kids off to go spend a week together or anything. So date nights was all we could do. So that was pretty cool to have the date night. But within a week or so, he said that he actually realized in that moment and in that week that he hadn't been taking care of himself. He had been also the guy that had to be strong for everyone. He had to take care of the family. He got us through a lot of really hard stuff. And when given this time now, uninterrupted, you do you. And he was like, whoa, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what I like. And he started to think how he lives in the tech world. He's always been very innovative. He likes to discover new things and try out stuff. And he just got into that and he got his own life back. So it was as beneficial for him as it was me. And I did tell him before I left, I said, I'm not coming back to the same man. So you're not getting the same woman back. And I expect you to go to therapy. And he did. He said he felt like he wasn't opposed to therapy. He just said he felt like he had to be the strong one who wasn't broken for the benefit of our family. And the minute he showed...
Which I think a lot of men probably feel that.
Yeah, I'm sure they feel that pressure. And he said, but giving him the permission to need some help, he was willing and he loved it. And it's been beneficial since, because anytime we're having a little moment where I can tell he's projecting some fear that's irrational to what we're actually talking about, or vice versa, I can just look him in the eyes, tell him, hey, I love you. That's not about me. You need to talk to your therapist. And I'm out. And then I walk away and I go to my room and I shut the door. Nice. And it sounds like dismissive and cold, but sometimes your arguments are absolutely pointless because you're not even arguing about anything. It's a feeling. It's something that's triggered something else. And just for both of us having a separate therapist and being able to have the language and understanding to say, I understand that you want to talk about this right now and I want to shut down and ignore you. Either way doesn't work for both of us, right? So in our coping mechanism, I'm allowed to say, I'm going to leave for an hour till I'm calm enough to talk to you. And you can be okay knowing I am coming back to this. I'm not just walking away and pretending it went away. And that's been a good thing because usually within an hour or two, you're fine. Yeah. You're fine. It wasn't ever about that. There was just some irrational fear that your amygdala brought up and your frontal lobe couldn't be logical anymore because all the fears were shouting at you. So he's gotten a lot out of it. And I share that because I think the men are the ones who, like you said, are very uncomfortable with the idea of their woman going somewhere else and being somewhere. What if she has a better life without me? And I kept saying, but if I'm my best self, I want to be with you. And I think you would want me to be my best self, just as I would want him to be his best self. It wasn't I'm going to be awesome and then you're not going to be good enough anymore. I mean, that can be the case for some people. Right. But that's if your husband's willing to do the work, then that usually we chose them for a reason. Right. And we've stuck with them for 20 plus years for a reason too. So they're good people.
I've loved that concept of like being wanted and not needed. Like you're choosing to have people in your space because they make your space better, not because you need them for survival, but you want them there. But back up. So we know that you're back home now. You just mentioned that. But I want to know, because you gave it a 30-day period and you started learning a lot about yourself, implementing practices, rituals. How did you know you were ready to go back home? Like, what was that?
Whitney, I wasn't ready. I actually, I got a little bit of a flu in the second week and it really knocked me out for a few days. And all I kept thinking was I'm missing out on valuable time. And right up to the day, I was looking online to see if I couldn't stay at my place. It was booked, but I would have stayed if I could. I wasn't ready to come home. And I thought, how am I going to make this work? If I move somewhere different, it's like a really big statement that I'm not coming home yet. But no, I absolutely did not want to go home. And I went home. I took a room in my home that was just a small guest room. It has a Murphy bed. And I decorated it really pretty. I have a desking there. I made it my space. I even used white bedding, which in a home with other humans and dogs, you just can't have white bedding, right? But in my room, I do because I wanted it and nobody's coming in there but me. And I've made it my little sanctuary. And I have made it clear that if anybody knocks on my door after I've told them not to, that I will leave. That's it. And I don't have a, it sounds so cold, but I don't have a tie to be home anymore. I will leave at any moment. Whereas before I left, I was scared to leave. And now I'm like, no, I understand better what I need. And if I can't get what I need in my home, then I'm prepared to get it elsewhere. Even if that means having an apartment down the road and just me and my husband just getting together when we want to.
Yeah, which I want to talk like a little bit more about that part of it. We need to cut to like a really quick break. Yeah. But when we get back, I want to talk about how that changed your romantic life a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, Nat, I was saying, we were just talking a little bit about how having a little bit of space and distance between you and your husband may have changed your life a little bit romantically. Like, how was that? Did it make it like more fun and exciting that it wasn't like, I don't know, that he's not just next to you in bed expecting, you know, or I'm not saying your relationship is like that, but I'm just.
Well, honestly, that was one of the hardest parts because we are very together. We're very physical. And so I knew that was something I was going to miss out on. I didn't know how it would work, but I was like, all right, here we go. So yeah, the first, I got a text that said DTF. You guys, I've been married a long time. I had to Google that one.
Shut up.
No, I had to Google that one and I saw it and I just laughed. And so I sent back a thumb emoji. That was it. And I
Wait, the thumb emoji, I thought the thumb emoji was like an FU emoji.
only there's two, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh, if there's two.
But I mean, DTF, he got the thumb emoji and I kid you not, probably 20 minutes and he showed up in sweats and slippers. And I opened the door and he just came in, top was up. And I was like, all right. So that's how that worked. But yeah, I definitely snuck home for a booty call here and there.
Yes,
but
I
it
love
it was literally that. And then I left. I popped in my car and off I went like the walk of shame the next morning. I actually started putting my medication in my purse just in case I got a sleepover.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, there you go, like teenagers. But
That's so sweet.
When Ben and I were divorced, that was my favorite thing. We hooked up the whole time, and it was so fun because it was like kind of like wrong, like and felt naughty.
Like there's
and
no
like,
obligation.
Yeah,
it didn't feel wrong.
Yeah,
but,
well, you
but
guys
I
are still
also
married.
was careful to not like. I didn't want to open the wound of let's just be together all the time because that wasn't the point of this. So as much as I wanted to just sleep over, I just was like, no, I got stuff I got to do, so I have to wake up at my own house every day, and that's kind of how we've remained even once I got back home because very quickly I was slipping back into the, you wake up in your bed, you grab your phone, you throw on the TV, and I thought, oh, no, we can't do this. So I actually started sleeping in my room, but I'd go to bed with him and then I'd get up and go to my room because I always had to wake up in my bed. And that way I was waking up when I wanted, I was doing my rituals, and I wasn't coming out of my room until I was ready to communicate and be needed, I guess. So that was actually really good because I do think that, you get to a point in life where you don't sleep on the same schedule. You have different temperatures, you have different time clocks, you have snorers and not snorers and
Body
movers.
floppers.
Movers, and I don't move at all, and I felt everything, and so then you just don't sleep great, and people end up on the couch or whatever, and it was like, nope, this is intentional. I'm having a comfortable bed that's as comfortable as the one I normally sleep in. And that's how it's been. So sometimes on the weekend, I'll stay there all night. But most of the time, I get up and go to my room at 1:30 in the morning and wake up in my own room.
It actually sounds amazing.
I love that.
Well, and he has a little ring that tracks sleep, and he gets way better sleep when I'm not there. So, it's a win-win on both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. We tie too much into the whole sex thing.
Well,
Like, we have plenty of good sex. We don't have
if
to
you
sleep
think about
together.
it, for the most part, privileged people grow up in their own beds.
Yeah.
From the time we're infants, we're put, alone. I mean, there's a lot of families that sleep together and circumstances, kids have to share beds, but for the most part, we're trained to sleep alone. And then all of a sudden you get married and you're like, all right, well, now you have to sleep with another large human being.
Yeah, I've always thought it was the weirdest thing to have to share a room as
too.
the homeowners. And the ones who should get your own space.
Right, and a bathroom. Like females, we should have our own bathroom.
Oh, that
I
doesn't
think so
bother
too.
me.
Well, like the
I don't like to share a toilet
back
and
to
tub.
the old days, the I Love Lucy, when they had their separate beds. They were in the same room. They had their separate beds.
That wasn't enough for me. I needed
You
to
need
be.
a whole other room.
You know
you
how
can
it
still
is.
hear snoring if
Yep. You
So-
roll over and a butt cheek slips out, and you're not on your own anymore.
Oh, yeah. No,
So we gotta have our own.
no
space.
more waking up to a nudge in your back.
It's true. It's not happening.
That's in my plan for my next house I design. It's going to be 2 master bedrooms. But we said we'd start in the same bed, like we're going to sleep, but once the lights go out, one of us is going to another room.
That's exactly how it works, and I love it. We both agree that it feels a bit weird, like we shouldn't be cool with it, but actually it's working out great. We're
that's
both
good.
sleeping well, and we're getting along, and I'm able to do all of my stuff, so I don't feel like leaving. I haven't felt like leaving. So
And
that's
it's all
good.
on your terms with what you
Absolutely
can
on my
handle.
terms.
And I love this concept. Like, so I'm just listening to like the common themes, and the morning time is very important for you. Like those first moments when you wake up.
I also created just some kind of like escape route stuff for my brain. So when things are starting to happen that might take me down a dark path, I have immediately got some kind of affirmations in my head that come right to me that are, you know, the truths that I wrote when I was in a good space. So they're not fluffy things that you just make up. Oh, you're pretty. It's like, no, you are this. And you agreed, you wrote this yourself, you believe this. So that's the stuff I bring up to help keep me in a good space, because it isn't just a morning obviously sets you up, but there's loads of things go on during the day that could put you down that pathway. And for the most part, I've been able to, if I do have a little downturn or I read something that kind of triggers in me, I've been able to get a bigger space between the upset and actually reacting. So that's been really, really nice. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got from this, which I didn't expect, was I didn't realize how much I distrusted my own ability to make a good decision. And this kind of goes back to a bit of a, you know, it's a bit of a trauma in a way, but I was a convert to the Mormon Church. And let me tell you, folks, they are very good. Their sales tactics are the best. You're sending out these young people who are just clean cut. All they do is serve for a couple years. Of course, they're glowing with like an aura that is beautiful. And then when they teach you something just random that I had no belief in anything. So it was like, well, that sounds like a great idea. And then they connect with you. And I'm an empathic person, so I cry when you cry, you know, all of that. And so, yeah, they tell you, ooh, this is the spirit. You felt it. Now you have to act on it. And so there it is. There's your sales pitch. Okay, I'm in the door. I believe you. I felt it. It's real. And then you get handed the manual and all the rules you have to follow now for the rest of your life. And as you go through life saying, well, I'm not feeling that feeling anymore, it's like, well, then there must be something wrong with you, or you're just not righteous enough, or maybe you have sin, or you haven't served enough. And there's all these reasons that you're not feeling the spirit. So as I kind of stepped away from that life and had to find my spirit again, I didn't trust it. I didn't trust myself. How do I make a good decision? I was absolutely suckered into this life that took years from me. It took everything from me, honestly, because I did give up everything to move here and be a good Mormon wife. And so you get rid of that and you go, what do I have left and how can I trust myself to make a good decision? So the best takeaway from this was everything I did helped me reconnect with my own spirit, tell myself, you know, how strong and powerful I am, how resilient I have been, and that my spirit was always there screaming at me. It was screaming at me that what I was doing wasn't right for me or the people I was trying to serve. And that's what I should have trusted. Not that it was wrong, that it was absolutely right and very loud. And that's why I felt so much, I don't know the term, but like I was very uncomfortable in a space where I was supposed to be feeling good and I wasn't.
So if you were to do it over again, what would you do different? Would you have like raised your kids in London and not maybe join the church?
It's hard to go back there.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have met my husband, you know, but then I wouldn't have married my first husband if I wasn't Mormon.
Right.
Because all the signs were there that I shouldn't.
Right.
But he was a Mormon and there weren't very many, so you did what you did. That was, yeah.
So it served a purpose in some ways.
Yeah, I mean,
if
I rolled back, I was a completely independent person. My husband could have just literally moved into my house and had a life there with me. But because of immigration and then moral standards of church, like we had to get married. And so you had to pick a place. I thought I was moving into, you know, big family. There was this big, huge family and I had a very small one. I didn't know how conditional that was. So that was really disappointing very early on because I was so different than them that I didn't know that I was never going to be that, you know, super Mormon that they wanted, even though I was
This
really...
is Boyd's family?
Yeah, I was really doing... I mean, they're good people. They're, you know, they're kind people, but I come through different. I look different. I had a different attitude. I'm not afraid to be around people different than me. None of my family are Mormons, so I was fine being around people who drink
all
and do
your
things.
culture was different.
Yeah, and then I didn't know the Utah way of just only show your good parts, hide everything else. And I'm very transparent, and I believe we're all just perfect and good enough as we are. So I couldn't understand this false, you know, only show up a certain way, only answer questions a certain way. And I never fit the mold. So I was, and also his family was, every one of them was returned missionaries. They're all married in a temple, and hearing come I'm like the black sheep, I'm the black sheep. Even
How
though,
dare you be an independent, smart woman?
right, and have an opinion. But the funny thing is, him and we hadn't done anything when we got married. We were still following all the rules. I just didn't want to get married in the temple. My mom couldn't go to the temple, so I wanted my mom at my wedding. I didn't know that was so taboo. I just thought, well, I guess we'll just have to wait because I'm not getting married without my mom there.
Yeah.
And so I came in with my cute little strapless wedding dress, and I didn't know how shocking that would be to my Utah family. And so I think they just thought I was just this, sinner that their beautiful son had rescued from the earth. And I kept thinking, he's lucky to have me.
Because he was a missionary in London.
He was a missionary when I met him, yeah, but it was about 4 years after his mission when we got married.
Have you had the luxury of seeing their wedding scrapbook?
No.
It's amazing.
Is
it's
it?
like it.
How have I not seen this? I'm coming over.
I randomly we were in your basement and randomly stumbled on some scrapbooks and started going through them.
That's a really good scrapbooker,
Yeah.
by the way. This is a gift of hers.
That was my first escape from life was, I can leave the house for a whole weekend and do family history. Which is, that's very approved in the Mormon Church. So that's what I was doing. Really, I was gluing and sticking, shooting the breeze with some girlfriends and just getting out of the house. That's what I did. But
looking at it, you're like, a Mormon would assume that you're not getting married in the temple because you had premarital sex, but they hadn't. She just wanted to wear the dress she wanted to wear and have her mom there. And I just wish I knew you back then to be a fly on the wall, just watch your new family. Like, what is Natalie doing?
It took me. See, I had no idea. I had no idea what they might be thinking until I became a Utah Mormon, and then I knew, oh my gosh, they were probably horrified.
There's a lot of assumptions, I'm sure.
Throw a jacket on those shoulders. But,
How dare you show the shoulders?
Yeah, big old sinner. But, hey, it worked out, right? Who's laughing now?
So
27 years, and we still have sex every day.
Every day.
For real?
For real.
Damn, girl. Don't tell my husband that.
I was going to say.
I know. I'm like, can we make sure the husbands don't listen to this podcast?
I'm like, that's
I think
exceptional.
that it was just for us. It was just we connect that way. We are very intimate in our we've never been a parts over people. We're very deep. I guess our relationship is deep, and so we've never kind of just looked at a body like, ooh, that's hot. It's more like I have to connect with someone to be close to them, and so for us it's more intimacy than it is just, knocking bones, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
So it would be sad not to.
Yeah.
That's why I missed it, just like something was missing as opposed to an obligation or just a need.
Yeah.
So you're back in the house now and you have your own space.
Yeah, I love it.
Still practicing all of your rituals and still working on
So there's been days where
healing.
I haven't. And I immediately, within a day of not doing all the things, I start to feel myself going down, and it's surprising how quick. And I think, gosh, how are you letting yourself do that? But then it's like, just get back on that horse, just get back on it, just do your stuff, and it quickly comes back.
How because I think that's very brave. Like, what you decided to do for yourself is not only honorable, but it's brave. That's only, in my opinion, a true leader could do that.
Well, because of the nature of my work, I'm in a service industry, so I speak to a lot of people, and we're shooting the breeze, and I was just surprised at how many people really do feel stuck, and they want something different than what they have. And I felt like in general that I've watched this kind of awakening happening where people are not settling anymore, that they are leaving marriages after 20 years, or even young people that are having kids and then saying, wow, I'm losing my identity to this motherhood and I really want to continue to be myself. And there was a theme there, and I kept seeing it, and I thought, I'm not the only person that's done this. But as I've studied over the years, this desire to do better, the only difference between the people who succeed and the people who aren't is just doing. Just do. You just have to do something, whatever it is. And I didn't know if it would work out. And I think I had listened to this little snippet from some inspiring woman that just said, the first step is the hardest. But if you take the first step, the second one is easier. And now you have a movement. And I thought that was it. I just had to take a step and then I'd have movement. And the minute I pressed send on my money that I'd saved up to pay for my Airbnb, it was like, that's it. That's the first step. And I threw my stuff in my car and now I have movement. And it was quick. I felt like I'd tore off all my clothes and was running naked into the ocean. It was just like, I'm free. And so the feedback is there really quick if you do something that's really scary. Yeah. So I encourage you all to try it.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to bring up too that you've been documenting as you go your whole journey of this retreat that you created for yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to stay accountable at first. I was like, I'm going to take video and see where this goes. And I also I am a creative person and I do like to scrapbook. And I thought, maybe I'll make YouTube videos. When I posted the first video, and bear in mind, I have no idea. I'm holding my camera the wrong way. The sound is bad. I haven't done my hair. Like I'm no frills. This is it. But I pressed send. I put it out there, and I immediately was getting response. And I thought, oh crap! How do I retreat? Like pull back. Don't do it. And I thought,
abort mission.
Yeah, like don't do it. And also, like, people started to share their journeys and their stories and the hard things they'd gone through. And they were encouraging me, like, you got this. But also I realized a lot of people do look up to me, and especially up to my husband and me as a couple, because not too many people know married couples who, like, get along and are happy and have gone through hard stuff and are still choosing each other. So it's you kind of inspire people. But at the same time, because I want to be truly authentic, it was like, hey, we have stuff too, like, and it's not that we have stuff together necessarily, but we individually have stuff that then makes it hard to be together. And I felt like with all the messaging I got from clients, friends, people back in England I went to high school with are reaching out to me.
Wow.
And I'm just shocked at the reach. You guys, I'm talking like 30 people, we're not talking big numbers,
but
that's 30 human beings that I might not have spoken to in 20, 30 years that are going, hey, this is really helping me. So I thought, all right, just keep doing it. It was time consuming because I didn't know what I was doing and I was trying to figure it out as I go along. So 30-day vlog posting, I don't highly recommend it. But at this point, I am going to do one a week because I'm continuing to learn what works for me, because I thought I was coming home with this big plan for my future. And instead what I came home with was no plan, but the power and the trust in myself and my own spirit to be able to choose and be led into what it is I'm going to do in my future. And I've realized in this 30 days away that it is probably going to be continuing to serve other people. That's what I love to do. I just have to do it with balance. As much as I give out, I also have to give back to myself. And I wasn't doing that. I was completely depleted. And that's probably my one thing where I'm like, I have to stay balanced. So as I'm planning my week and looking at the areas where I know I'm going to be giving, I need to make sure I'm mapping in time where I'm receiving. Even if that's, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to get a massage, whatever it is, I'm going to hang out with friends, that's going to feed me. And I need to make sure I'm doing enough of that to warrant the amount that I'm putting out. And that's kind of where I'm going with
And do you compromise on that, or is that a hard no?
That's a hard no.
So did you used to compromise on these things?
I'm ready now. I'm down right now. And don't get me wrong, I'm still I will be available in the right times. But a lot of times people ask the people that they know will say yes. And so you just say yes. And I had learned to be more select about what I say yes to. But you still, especially as you get older, if you've been in a depression, you have less energy to give. So you can't, if you know you're going to be working for 8 hours and you're going to spend your whole day talking, trying to make people feel comfortable when they're uncomfortable, I know I can't really plan a night out where I'm going to go and be the life of the party. It's like, no, I need a chill night where you can recharge back to me. Yeah. So just that balance.
Yeah. Cause this whole thing really was such a dramatic thing to respect yourself, your time, your space. Like you went to the extremes to be able to do that because you hadn't done that for so many years. And it's so important. It's like that whole, that whole thing. You have to put the,
Your
mask
mask
on
on.
yourself and feed yourself first before you can really truly be there for others. And I think you just got so depleted and you were
I think
empty.
we think we're invincible and that we have infinite, amounts to give. And there's just a point where your body or your brain says, no, you don't, you're done. But one of the hard things for me was as people were reaching out and sharing their story, it's very instinctive to then sort of return and listen to them and like interact and try and say, thanks for sharing. And I knew I couldn't dedicate time to that. It was just like, you can't take the time to respond to everybody's things. So I was trying to say, thank you, I appreciate you sharing. And that was it. And then move on and not like be sucked into 2 hours of back and forth about someone else's like traumatic experience, even though like my heart was hurting for them. It was like, but I got to choose me right now. And that was, that was probably one of the challenges of not being able to be available as you've wanted to be.
I went through that too last season when I shared my childhood abuse and going through that trauma and working through it. It was beautiful what happened. People sharing their stories and the connection, but it's so true. It's just because you're sharing doesn't mean you're now the expert or the giver.
Right.
And I found myself, like taking on other people's pain now. So I think the beautiful thing about sharing your story is inspiring others to do it for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that it's more relatable to learn from someone who was right where you were a month ago. Instead of, hey, I want to run a marathon. Let's go find the expert that's been running marathons all his life. I'm like, no, I want to talk to the person who was on their couch with a bag of Cheetos 6 months ago that ran a marathon. I want to ask them, how did you do it? Because that's more relatable for me. And I think that's why I was willing to share, half the time, no makeup, still in my pajamas, just like, this is the reality. This is where I'm at and this is what's happening. And some days are good, some days were crap. And I was really lonely in that basement. Like I wanted to be alone so bad until I was sick. And then it was like, this sucks. I don't want to be alone anymore. So, pros and cons to everything. But in the end, just really, really good positive messaging out of it. And that the work is never done, that I'm just going to keep going and keep sharing. And that, doesn't matter what phase of life you're in. If you feel like you're not comfortable where you're at, change it. And that's it. Only you can. And I can't tell you how much it hurt me to have friends who would say, I really need that so bad, but my husband won't let me. And I heard that a few times. And I thought, you are taking care of your family. You pay your own bills. Like, what's with the let you? And I thought that was the truth of it. Sometimes we get into a position where we feel like we're not in charge of our own life. And we have to be.
Do you think that's a false belief? Like a false narrative that we tell ourselves because we don't dare ask for it?
Possibly, or fear.
Because of fear of the consequence?
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I had a cushy life. Don't have to pay my bills. I could do whatever I want. I get breakfast brought to me. Like, and why would I walk away from that? Like, but it's like, no, if you're not fulfilled and you're unhappy inside, it doesn't matter. And I remember as a single mom at 21 years old with 2 kids, no help from the government, church, or the ex, like 0. And I felt better about myself then than I was 2 months ago. So there's a lot of dignity and there's a lot comes from being self-sufficient and feeling independent. That doesn't mean you have to be alone, but you have to feel like you can take care of yourself no matter what.
Yeah.
So I needed that regroup.
This, because you're leading your family, I think that, men are the protectors and often the providers, but the moms are the heartbeat. The moms are the heartbeat of the family. And it's so cool to hear that Boyd was like all on board and like doing his own self work. And I know the two of you, and you are deep. Like you both are very smart, intelligent individuals, but together there is this like deep bond. But have you seen the impact on your family? Like, has it provoked change for your family too?
Yeah, I'll tell you, since I've been home, I've barely done any chores, which sounds weird because I'm just I potter around. I'm constantly cleaning something, but I have barely done anything. And surprisingly, my house is pretty dang clean. So apparently other people figured out that the house doesn't take care of itself when mom's not around. So
The walls don't turn into cleaners.
So yeah, there's been a lot of that. And definitely they did respect my space and time. Whereas before, I don't think they realized how badly I needed the privacy. You know, I told my kids, you're adults with the pleasure of living at our house now. That's a roommate situation now. You know, I know the cost of living's high and it is hard to be independent as well when they have some dependencies. But it was like, you still have to respect the home that you're in. And so I don't get to be everyone's slave anymore. So I've definitely seen that change at home. And I think, my kids are just proud of me for doing it. And say my husband, I feel like he gets offended when I say this, but I feel like I have a different husband, like a new husband. And he says, well, that kind of discounts all the good that he's done in the past. And it's not that so much, but I feel like it's when I met him and I was watching someone who was inspired and excited about what he was doing and showing up, you know, really in a place that he felt good about himself. And so I get to be around that good energy. And again, he gets to be around mine. So
that's amazing.
If you could change your life in 30 days, it's not really that hard, is it?
Right.
You know, it's worth it. It was worth it. Yeah. So
wow.
I didn't know that would be the outcome. I said I could have been on the streets in some homeless shelter. My income, I could barely, I'd have a roommate for sure in a really crappy place if I had to support myself at this point. But that's where I was just like, I was ready to take the risk because I needed to choose me more than anything. So it was worth it.
Wow. I'm so proud of you for doing that because I don't know. There is a lot of fear and it takes a lot of bravery for sure to do what you did.
And growth is hard. It hurts. It's painful. It's messy. It's really hard to grow and to change. And I'm on my own journey doing that, but I'm going to get emotional. Like when I saw your first video, I started crying. I was fulfilling orders in my fulfillment room and I just started crying because I'm like, this is like Nat is going to change things for people because so the people who hurt the most from the outside looking in, you cannot tell. Like just be in it. It's like a reminder to check on people, stand up for yourself.
It was after Twitch passed away, actually. That kind of inspired me. It sounds awful. It inspired me, but it's true. When you're someone who does like care for other people deeply, you don't feel like you want to share your burdens because you don't want to add to anyone else's burdens. But what happens is you become very silent about your troubles and your concerns and you stuff everything inside. And then you lose somebody who seems pretty magnificent and you hear people going, I had no idea. I had no idea they were sad. And I thought, you know, is that what people would have said about me? Like that I had no idea you guys were struggling. And I thought, yeah, that's why I got to put it out there that sometimes those of us who look like we got it all together just are protecting you from the pain that we're in because we don't want to add to your struggles, but no, we don't got it all together. So now I presume that. I presume most people don't have it all together, but some people have a better game face than others. And I had a really good game face.
So on a deep level, you've gained back control of your life. On a fun level, you're having better sex. You get to sleep alone. Your house is clean. It sounds like, it has been a amazing experience for you. So any last, like what's next?
You know,
what's the next 30 days?
I don't know. Each time I do read something, I learn something else I got to learn. And that's it. I'm just in a heavy learning phase. I will continue to put myself out there and share and help people that feel less than. And I just hope that I can encourage and continue to encourage people to just try and live your best life. That if you're not happy where you're at, just make a little change. You don't have to do something drastic, but just make a little change and see if that hits. And if it doesn't, try something different. But just keep moving. And if you need help, ask for help. You know, I've been going to therapy for over a year. And I remember the first week she said, you're going to be okay. I just think it's going to take longer than you'd like. And I was like, oh, gosh, who's got time for this? And here I am a year later, just love my therapist. She's awesome. And yeah, I couldn't have done it without help. And sometimes you have to get help outside of the people who are normally helping you and just do it. Just Don't be afraid. Just do one little thing, hang on someone else's coat strings and know that it worked for them. There's a lot of people that are right where you are, and you just got to do one thing and move, and the second step gets easier.
That's great advice. It really is.
And where can people find you? Where can they find this journey if they wanted to?
My journey is on Instagram. It's on YouTube. My Instagram is Kingdom to State, and I have a website, kingdom2state.com. That's TO, not the number. And everything links to YouTube from there, but I think it's under my name and some numbers. So just Kingdom to State will take you there, and the links are there. Yeah, my midlife 30-day sabbatical is the title. It's not the best artwork, but I'm proud of the work. I'm proud of the work, and I did it. I didn't miss a day.
But it's not about the artwork. It's about the message and the learning and your journey.
Yeah, and we're still doing it and laughing at ourselves as we go.
I love it.
We're figuring it out together.
I love it. I'm so glad that you're my friend and that you're in my life, and you're very inspiring to me, and I know you are to many. So
well, you ladies are too, and especially you, Whitney. I've watched you kind of go through a lot and bloom and change, and in all in a good way. And I can say personally that to me, you haven't changed as far as how you show up for people. You've always been supportive. You've always tried to learn and change where you needed to. You've shown up for my kids when you were like the busiest human I know, and you drop off soup. I'm just like, this girl. Really super impressive. And I love to see someone that just gets to be themselves, because there's too many of us that felt like we couldn't be ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, just that's it. Just keep being authentically yourself. And some people will love you and some people won't, but you're good. You're a good human in the core.
Well, I appreciate that, Nat. And I couldn't do it without having my amazing support system. Like you two are I have a lot of amazing friends, but without having badass supportive women holding me up, because you have both held me up at times. And I think that's the beauty of life, is once you share your story and what you're going through, people show up for you. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see what your next 30 days are. I feel like that is going to be the new mantra of life. The next 30 days. Yeah. That's all I'm going to commit to is the next 30 days.
And look how much change you can get in 30 days.
I love it.
Awesome.
Well, amazing. Thank you for taking the time to come on and share your journey and your your experience as a midlife 30-day sabbatical. It sounds like it should be written into the curriculum of life.
For real.
Yeah, I didn't need a sports car. Didn't need that.
Just a basement Airbnb.
Next time I'll be on a higher floor. I got to have some windows at least.
All right. Well, what was your wildest thing this week?
Well, we woke up one day to about 3 feet of snow. And where we live, our garage is in the back of our houses. And so there's alleyways. And it's like a snowdrift in there. And I literally couldn't get out of my house. I was totally grounded. And I kid you not, I had clients that were ready to get lasered at 9 a.m. It was like, I can't leave my house. But that was pretty wild. Utah, as much snow as we get, it does not stop very much here. We keep rolling through it. It's pretty wild.
Well, we got those snow drifts because of the wind. We had one against our garage door and then our front gate. Mm-hmm. You couldn't get in our front gate.
Yeah, that's how my backyard was. And I just couldn't. I didn't even know where to put the snow because the alleyway was just up to my chest in snow.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Mm-hmm. My wildest thing probably was I was a keynote speaker at a conference for the first time ever in Justin's industry, speaking to his peers. So
that's amazing.
That's really cool.
I saw he made a little reel about it. It was really cute, and he's so proud of you.
My proud hubby. I can't speak. I've been talking all day, so I'm like a little short on words right now.
Good. You need a refill.
What about you, Connie? What was your wildest thing?
Besides the snowstorm, that was the wildest thing, really. I don't know. I quit drinking for a week.
Oh my God. It's pretty wild.
Not that I usually drink that much during the week, but hey,
a week detox is great.
A week detox, yeah.
I see you got a new piercing.
Oh, I did. I got new piercings. I got a second one up in my, what do you call this? Just up in the cartilage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a little stacked one on my lobe over here.
Oh, cute.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love a good piercing or tattoo moment.
I know.
Gosh, they're so symbolic around here.
And
That's how you signal your sins.
Yep.
They are.
I have more than one hole in my
I
ear.
have both conches pierced.
Well, tomorrow I'm actually getting my tramp stamp removed. My first laser light tattoo
Good
removed.
luck with that one.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
good
so
luck,
nervous.
darling.
That's not fun.
No. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the love.
You've had worse done.
Yeah,
You'll
I'm
be
like, I
fine.
can't go on with the rest of my. I can't be a 50 or I can't get to 50 and like
With
have my
Watch,
tramp.
right when
No,
you get rid of it, they're gonna come back, and
No,
everyone's
they
gonna be
already
getting
are
trapped.
coming back. They're coming
If you guys
back.
want a funny story about tattoos, when I first joined the Mormons, of course, suddenly you can't do a lot of things, right? You give you a list of not allows. So I got the little CTR shield that everybody gets in a ring, and I got it tattooed down right by my hoo-ha. But I put a little tail on it, so it looked like a little kite, because I said, if anyone ever asks me what does that mean, I'm in trouble. So it was my stop bad behavior tattoo. Well, then
Kind of the same reason you wear garments, right?
Yeah.
It's like the reminder.
Fast forward to moving to Utah, and I'm at my first OBGYN appointment up in the stirrups, and the doctor comes in, who happens to be my husband's uncle. I didn't think that was weird. He ain't my uncle. But he comes in, I'm spread eagle, and he giggles. And I said, well, that's comforting. And he was like, it's your tattoo. It made me laugh. Because, you just forget they're there, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's funny.
The OBGYN was shocked by my CTR tattoo down there. It's
You
gone
still
now.
have it?
I've had it removed.
Oh.
But it was there for a minute. So
That's funny. I love
Yeah,
it.
I love you.
that was my Utah.
Stories for days. We'll have to bring you on and check in on how your sabbatical is
You can
going.
come and meet me at the mental hospital when it's all gone south and come and interview
No,
me there.
you're not.
No, I think we're stepping in the other direction.
going in the
Far
other
from
I've done
direction.
that. I've
Yeah.
wasted enough time being miserable.
The next
Yep.
direction
I don't
is a
have time
girls' trip.
Yeah.
That's where
I'm down for that.
Always.
But, well, thank you, Natalie. We love you. And to all of you listeners out there, we love you. We appreciate your love and support. And don't forget to always be you and stay wild.
Bye, everyone.